Hey guys, it's Ness here at Cake Style. Today's cake is a super awesome watermelon cake that I made for my youngest daughter Sydney. This turned out so cute and she absolutely loved it. Her favourite cake flavour is red velvet, so I decided to make a pink velvet cake with cream cheese frosting to go with our watermelon because I want this watermelon to be kind of a little bit cutesy and a little bit more on the pink side. So I've gone ahead and I've got all of my dry ingredients and I have sifted them into a bowl. Just give it a little bit of a stir, and then I want to put the wet ingredients directly into the mixing bowl of my mixer. I'm adding buttermilk into this recipe as well as a little bit of extra vinegar. If you don't have buttermilk, you can go ahead and make it yourself. For every 1 cup of milk, you put in 1 teaspoon of vinegar and just let it sit for 5 minutes. I'm going to give it a little bit of a stir, and then I'm going to add in 1 teaspoon of pink liquid food colour. Mix that up and you can see that we're already getting a really pretty shade. Now I want to go ahead and pop in the dry ingredients, and I'm doing that in a couple of goes. So just dump some of it in, give it a bit of a mix on a sort of low to medium speed, and then add in the rest. Now I'm going to add a touch of gel food colour because they're a little bit more potent and it's a little bit brighter to make sure that we keep some good vibrancy in this colour. I've greased and lined 3 cake tins, and I'm going to place an equal amount into each pan and then pop them into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit or about 175 degrees Celsius for about 19 to 20 minutes. After those are baked, I'm going to chill them in the fridge for about 4 hours and get started on the cream cheese. So I'm using just my regular cream cheese recipe, and don't worry, I will add a link to it for you. I'll have a little card up here so that you can follow it over to the website, and I'll also list it in the description box below. But basically it's just butter, cream cheese, some icing sugar, and once we've got all of that in and we've beaten it for about 5 minutes, scraping down the sides from time to time, you want to go ahead and just place in a little bit of vanilla extract. Now that the cakes are nice and chilled, I want to go ahead and cut them into our watermelon slice. So I actually want to cut it just off center a little bit. And then to get 4 layers in this cake and to not have as much wastage, I'm going to go ahead and use the excess pieces to create an extra layer. This layer isn't going to go on the top or the bottom for structure, but you can sandwich it into the middle and it will just give you a little bit more cake goodness and make sure that you're using up as much of this cake as you can. I'm going to place the first layer onto a cake board, and then I'm going to fill each layer with some cream cheese. Now this cream cheese gets really soft, so if at any time you find that the icing gets too runny and too sloppy to work with, just go ahead and pop the entire bowl into the fridge covered in cling wrap or Glad wrap, and just leave it in there for about 10 to 20 minutes or so, just so that it gets a little bit more body and structure. I like to add a fair bit of cream cheese to this, but do remember that the more you add, the wobblier the cake can get. So be sure to pop this into the fridge as soon as you're done filling it. Now with the excess cream cheese, I'm going to go ahead and make a really pretty pink shade using the exact same 2 colors I used in the cake batter. And then I'm also going to make 2 different shades of green. One is just a mint green, and the other is a combination of forest green and mint green. You're also going to need a little bit of just plain icing left over, as well as a tiny bit of black. The first thing is to get a crumb coat, which just locks in the crumbs. You just want to make sure that you get sort of the colors that you're going for. So on the front section, you want to add the pink. On the top, you're going to add the pink. And then when it comes to doing the outside, I'm going to use the paler green, and that way when we cut into it, you're going to see just a tiny hint of that rather than the darker shade. Now you can see that it does get pretty sloppy very easy, so be ready to chill this cake for about 15 minutes. But also I went ahead and I chilled the bowls with my frosting as well during that time, just so that they get a little bit thicker. And you can see as I'm adding this extra layer, it's a lot thicker and it's a lot more stable. So you want to go ahead and get it on that front side bit. smooth it and scrape it back with a scraper. You can use a plastic one or you can use a metal one. The metal ones are nice because they're nice and cold, and that's really helpful for the cream cheese. And then you want to do a smooth coat on top. Now, this cake doesn't have to be perfect. You can still have some spatula marks and things like that. It's just a really fun cake. And with cream cheese, if you keep trying to make it absolutely perfect, you will pretty much be there forever. So just go ahead and scrape it back as much as you can. And then we want to get started with our green. So I have a 102 piping tip, and I'm going to be applying some of the light green in stripes. Now, the stripes don't have to all be straight up and down. You can have a bit of movement, but you want to get this, and that way we can come back with our darker color, fill in all the extra bits, and you find that this will really help to give that real watermelon effect where the colors just sort of blend and bleed into each other. So as you scrape it, those lines start to blur and you just get like a little flare of the light color happening in patches around the sides of the cake. I thought this technique was really cool and fun, and luckily it turned out just like I'd hoped, and I think that it really makes the cake having the side be a sort of mottled effect. Now the darker color has a 104 tip, so I'm going to go ahead and go around the edge of the cake with our darker color first, because we want that to be our nice thick band. Then I'm going to come back with the same 102 tip that I've always had on this color, and I want to do the brighter green as our next layer. Lastly, I'm adding in just the plain cream cheese color, and I'm using a round tip. It's just a number 8, so it's fairly small. And this is just going to trim up the edge. Now for the adorable face, I'm going to do a little cute mouth with our black. And then I'm going to do 2 sort of blinking, winking eyes. Of course, we have to have some little watermelon seeds on there as well. And lastly, it needs some cheeks. So I'm using just the plain cream cheese color to create some little puffy cheeks under those eyes. And then we have our gorgeous watermelon cake. It's super cute. It was really fun to make. It was the perfect 10-year-old birthday cake for Sid, being pink velvet. I hope that you really liked this video. Subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up.